That would be my guess. Preview or mid-season update from the team, answering a question that one particular weapon players are searching for. Behind the scenes look at placeholder animations regarding that gun. Hey, we'll say farewell to the man beloved commander. Tribute to the incredible Amanda Holiday. Yep, that happened. I don't. It's kind of feels like Cade. Like it didn't need to happen for the story. It just did, and now we're supposed to feel bad about it. And it sucks that she's gone, but I kind of don't feel that bad about her leaving. Like it was a cool sacrifice that she made and all that, but she didn't really do anything for the story. I mean, I'm sure in the lore she did, but in terms of like the play to play, like, oh no, I can't buy ships anymore for my starting character. Let's see. They've reduced the enemy HP scaler in all non-raid/dungeon legend and master difficulties by 10%. So enemies are 10% easier to kill in legend and master lost sectors, because if it's not raid or dungeon, it's pretty much, I guess Nightfalls too got a little bit easier by 10%. Cool. Reduce the co-op enemy HP scaler in legendary Avalon by 33% in a full fire team. So having 3 members of your fire team do Legend Avalon will be easier now by 33%, which is a pretty significant amount. To be fair, the bosses did have way too much health on that second encounter. Especially, the boss had way too much health. We've also made such additional reductions to commendation requirements so players can reach their milestones at a more enjoyable pace. Reduced Hawthorne's weekly challenge commendation targets from 20 to 5. Okay? If you do... You can get this with 5 Vanguard strikes. That seems too low, but that's just my opinion. 20 seems fine, because even if you're doing your normal Pinnacle activities of 3 Vanguard playlist, 3 Gambit, 3 Crucible, that's 9. You're halfway done. If you do a raid, that's another one. Maybe 10 would have been a better scale. 5 seems so low. Reduced Guardian rank objectives that require players to give commendations from ranks 7, 8, and 9. 7 is 100, was 460. Rank 8 was 790, is now only 250. And rank 9 was 1290, is now 500. Just for scale, I think I have 2,000 on my guy. 2,200 on my guy. So... I raid a lot, admittedly, but I'm only getting one of those every hour that I raid. If you look at the, like, if you convert it like that. So, I don't know. I feel like it didn't need to be reduced nearly that much. I feel rank 7, 8, and 9, you should be doing pretty good endgame activity at that point. So, I don't think it needed to be scaled quite as aggressively as a 5th, a 3rd, and a little less than half. I think half would have been fine across the board. I think 200 commendations at level 7 is fine. But, you know, it's not my game. Bungie can do it however they want. It's just my opinion. Mid-season preview weapon edition. PvE primary weapon balance. We've done quite a bit of testing on these numbers. Heroic Nightfalls and Legendary campaigns all the way up to Grandmaster. There's a weapon here. In Heroic and Legend content, you should be more likely to one-shot red bar enemies depending on your weapon type, and even in GMs. We have shaved how many shots it takes and time it takes to kill the below weapons against red and orange bar enemies. We want to add that we do not believe we are done with tuning weapons damage in PvE. This is merely a starting point, and we will revisit it in the coming seasons to make sure everything has a place in the sandbox. Increase the damage of the following weapons against red bar and orange bar enemies in PvE. So that's going to be minors and majors, but not ultras and not bosses. Auto rifles face steep competition for SMGs within their parts. Okay. I skipped to the end there for a second, but let's continue reading this part. And having a longer possible engagement distance wasn't doing enough to offset it. We don't want auto rifles to defeat combatants faster than SMGs, as that would flip the script and invalidate the lower range options instead, but we did feel that we could close the gap substantially. Auto rifles increase the damage in PvE, all auto rifles, by 25%. I'm just going to say, sweet business. Do with that what you will. I know I'm going to use, I think it's Rufus's Fury. That thing's going to shred with a 25% buff. Pulse rifles and hand cannons have been considered weaker in harder PvE content for some time. I don't know where they're getting that with pulse rifles. That new exotic one they gave us last season is whack. So we wanted to make sure that the buff we gave them was substantial, while at the same time keeping them below the lower ranged option in terms of pure lethality. Pulse rifles have struggled, being less effective than scout rifles, despite for the most part having a less effective range. This is true. Scout rifles real good. Pulse rifles in the middle, not the worst, not the best. It's a nice little middle ground between a scout rifle and an auto rifle. That, like I said, that new one last season though, dude, it's like Ace of Spades. That thing is so good. We also put sidearms into this group because they similarly lagged in damage output compared to the longer range SMGs. Now, for legendary sidearms, I will agree with this. They were in a really bad place in that they felt bad to use and didn't do the damage of an SMG that is supposed to be around the same lethality to range thing. Like, certain weapons specialize at certain ranges. Like, for example, bows and scouts are better at long range. You've got the sidearms and the SMGs at the close range, and then you've got like the hand cannons, the pulse rifles at the mid range. So I see what they're saying with this. At the same time, I have a feeling this is, and I haven't looked yet, this buff's going to hit all sidearms. If it does, that new final warning, whatever it was called, the new strand sidearm that's currently the highest damage primary in the game, that could be even more wackadoodle than it already was at close range, so we'll see. Let's see, at these values, pulse rifles should be in a more reliable spot, hand cannons should feel like they pack more punch, and a sidearm should fall much better into the high risk, high reward category. Pulses, hand cannons, and sidearms bonus 25% against red bars. Okay. I'm going to read this real quick. It was close, and the Tentabobble. I'm just reading your thing real quick, DJ. Tentabobble at the end there was pretty sketch. D2 time. IMO, my issue with it was that this didn't really make sense for her to be. Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's overkill. Yeah, okay. But 100 feels low, that's one raid. Yeah. Since it resets, they want it to be attainable. It should reset every season, though, because you don't... Like, it shows that you are committed and continuing. It's like a gilded triumph, in my opinion, where, like, if you're gilded times 5 on Conqueror, I don't have to worry about you at all. I already know that you can hold your own. Let's see. Quicksilver got fixed in the patch notes, so it got plus 40% and now plus 25%. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we'll test, matter of fact, I will pull Quicksilver from my vault and Final Warning. Let's go psycho crazy here. Final Warning, I don't need Izzy right now. I was using that for Last Wish Legit last night. Let's get... Which one were we going to get? We are getting Final Warning. We were getting my brain. Revision 0. That's going to be nuts. We are going to get Sweet Business. And then what was the one? You were saying? Quicksilver. That's what it was. The boy. bow with the face. This is the preview. These aren't live yet. I need to make my chat section bigger here. On this, it's a bummer I can't, like, you know, scale this up. It's a bummer. I'll figure out how to do it later. It's fine. Let's continue reading the Twab, I guess. Scout rifles. Here we go. We may be more careful tuning scout rifles up too much because they offer the benefits of very safe engagement ranges paired with unlimited ammo. So making them too strong instantly turns most endgame PvE content into sit as far away as possible and plink, which we want to avoid. Well, then maybe you shouldn't be buffing scout rifles, Bungie. That being said, after the changes to other weapons, they felt like they were trailing just a little bit too far behind, so we have moved them up as well by 10%. Okay. Scout rifles were already really, really good. They were better than bows in every way. They were better than pulse rifles in most ways. They had the long range, like, slot for primaries locked up. 10% buff across the board to scout rifles. I don't know why. I mean, I read why. Like, you saw that it was trailing a little bit too far behind. If you're trying to have pulse rifles compete at the long range thing and you're giving them 20% bonus, just give them a 10% bonus and don't buff scout rifles. Because if you buff both of them, like, what? It negates the previous point that you made about the pulse rifles wanting to be more of a consideration. SMGs and bows. We tuned the rest of the primary weapons using these two archetypes as benchmarks, but as mentioned above, we will continue to keep an eye on the primary weapon balance of PvE and may revisit their tuning as needed. SMGs don't need anything. They're in such a good position right now. They dominate. I don't know how much you could buff a hand cannon to compete against an SMG of the same caliber. You'd have to pump sidearms more than 20% to have them come even close to SMGs, because the SMGs are really good weapons on their own archetype, but the SMGs that everyone uses also have incredibly good perk pools that we can utilize. For example, the Ikelos that gets Volt Shot. Like, there's no other weapon in the game that can get Volt Shot besides the sidearm that is even close to within the same power level as that SMG. And the sidearm's not nearly as good, because I think it's 3-round burst, and the SMG is, 45 rounds in the clip or whatever it is. It's crazy. Bows need a tuning. They should be the long draw, hard hit. They should be able to one-shot most red bars in most challenge levels, because the difficulty to use them is significantly higher than a scout rifle, and they share that same archetype of the long-range weapon, in my opinion. So, scout rifles have dominated that area for a long time, and getting an extra 10% is not going to shorten that gap. I don't know what you need to do to bows to make them work better in that archetype, but exotic bows are pretty strong. Legendaries could use a little bump. SMGs are busted. Yeah, I agree, DJ. The legendary bows, or the exotic bows, I mean, they're all best in class for their bows. But that's because they're really good bows on their own that also do something busted. Like Tiku's really good bow on its own because it draws fast and also makes targets explode. Wishender, really good bow. It has a really long draw time, but it one-shots majors in most encounters because it hits 3 times. And it's got anti-barrier. The legendary bows, there's a couple that are fine, but it suffers the same problem that I was talking about with the SMGs, in that they don't have a very good perk pool. You can get Archer's Tempo, cool. You can get... That's about it. You can get Archer's Tempo. Because the power of the bow is being able to draw it quickly and do a lot of damage in one shot. But there's not that many cool perks that are, like, good for bows. Like, you could get Frenzy on a bow, for example, and you can get the 15% damage bonus and the faster reload, but faster reload doesn't really benefit a bow as much as it does in SMG, and the extra 25% on a shot that's already one-shotting something isn't necessarily going to make the difference. The downside of the bow is that it can't clear out multiple ads. It's really good at targeting one thing. If you could get a bow, like a kinetic bow, let's say, that could run with that new kinetic tremors perk, that would be super powerful. If you can get Dragonfly on the legendary bows that are elemental damage and not kinetic or stasis, that would be super good. If you can get bows that basically have some kind of perk that can also clear ads in addition to just saying single target, I think that would improve their ability to compete against scout rifles. But as it currently stands, scout rifles do similar to, if not more, headshot damage than a bow, sans the exotic ones. If we're just talking like legendary against legendary. And they have a rate of fire that is significantly faster than a bow, even with Archer's Tempo. So, like, why would you use a bow compared to a scout? And this is coming from someone, as you know, and I know, love bows in this game. They just are not in a super good place right now. There's a Cloud Strike here. I don't know why there's a picture of a Cloud Strike. I assume we're going to be talking about snipers in a second, but I see Scout, SMG, and then I see SMG. So, archetypes, weapon archetypes. SMG, aggressive frame SMGs have been very strong in the PvP meta for the last couple of months, with a handful of outliers taking most of the credit. The Icolos SMG was something of a mystery to us, as we continually felt and got reports that the gun seemed to have much better stability than its stats would indicate it should, compared to other SMGs. Originally, the Icolos SMG was built back in the Warmind era, when we had fewer guidelines to how to keep weapons balanced, and upon doing a deeper investigation, we found that some custom tuning had been added to the weapon's scope to give it a recoil reduction effect. For comparison, the recoil reduction tuning was like having an effect nearly equivalent to Zen Moment at max strength and always active. We have removed that custom tuning, and the recoil should now feel in line with other SMGs. That makes a lot of sense. Honestly, yeah, that checks out for the Icolos. Yeah, I agree. Icolos SMG removed some tuning in the custom scope, causing it to have significantly less recoil than intended. The recoil is now in line with other aggressive SMGs. Okay, that will make it feel slightly worse, but probably not enough for me to stop using it. And I don't use it in PvP, so I really won't probably notice too much of a difference. We are aware that this change in isolation, while noticeable, is unlikely to put much a dent in the aggressive frame SMG's current dominance, so we have a larger change to reduce the damage of the aggressive sub-family that will release alongside Season 21. The change will be targeted at shifting the resiliency threshold, where the gun can achieve its optimal 0.76 time to kill, down to a lower value to force a more reasonable 0.77 TTK against most players, which also decreases their forgiveness of missed crits. Cool. Fusion rifle. While we last touched fusion rifles, shotguns were seeing a big dip in effectiveness, and we were concerned that the rapid-fire frame fusions would rise up to take their place. As such, we preemptively nerfed rapid fires pretty hard. In today's sandbox, this is less of a concern due to the renewed strength of shotguns, following the airborne effectiveness and pellet spread changes, so we have walked back some of the damage nerfs we made to rapid-fire frames. This change will push them back into defeating all resilience levels in 7 bolts and give them a decent bump to ease of use. Increases burst damage by 15. Damage per burst goes from 245 to 260. Damage per bolt goes from 27.2 to 28.9. Damage in PvE unchanged. I don't care then. Trace rifles are a bit precarious spot in the Crucible. In the right hands, they can kill quickly at long ranges, even outside of their optimal TTK. On the other hand, they can be difficult to use, and they often feel heavy ammo limited if you are not hitting the optimal TTK. We did a lot of experimenting with them for this change, including multiple combinations of damage and crit ratio, and settled on the values below as the highest we could push their damage output before they become frustrating to deal with in Crucible. Interestingly, with damage any higher than this, the feeling was that they had a surplus of ammo, especially in 6v6 modes, and could often net 2 kills per special brick picked up, which was concerning. Once we moved their damage values, they still felt like they needed a little bit more, and we wanted to lean harder into making them feel good to use, so we increased the effect that stability has on reducing flinch at the high end of the stat. We will monitor this change when it goes live, and may revisit the ammo situation in a future update if the effectiveness remains low. Increased base damage by 4%. That does not seem very strong. Reduced precision hit multiplier from 1.4 to 1.35. Crit damage dropped by 0.1. I assume that changes TTK by a significant amount, but just because trace rifles hit so often. But again, it's a PvP change. Increase the effectiveness of stability, reducing flinch by 10% at 100. Scales down at lower levels. Sniper rifles. That's probably why they had the picture of the Cloud Strike up here. Rapid fire frame sniper rifles have long struggled to find a place in PvP and PvE. In PvP, their inability to kill with 2 body shots puts them on uneven footing with other snipers. And in PvE, their fast rate a round per minute, but standard inventory size means you consistently feel low on ammo. To address these concerns and differentiate them from other sniper subfamilies, we have reduced their recoil by 50%. That's a lot. This means hitting crits on a boss or champion in PvE is much easier. No kidding. And taking rapid follow-up shots in PvP is too. I'm sure it is. We have also increased their inventory stat by 30%, which should give them a lot more rounds to play with in PvE. Cloud Strike. Cloud Strike. That's all. Cloud Strike. DJ, I would love your opinion on Cloud Strike. Cloud Strike for sure, but also Whisper. Is Whisper rapid frame? I actually don't remember. Whisper. 72 RPM? I don't remember if that's rapid fire or not. We can compare it against Cloud Strike. Cloud Strike is 140 RPM. Whisper is not a rapid fire frame. Cloud Strike, though, my God, with the catalyst, you're going to be able to get triple tap handedly. Another weapon to test. See how that one feels. That's going to be dumb. Hey, Revision 0, I remember you. We were just talking about you. Exotic weapons. Final warning, being able to track targets through barricades was funny in some cases, felt pretty unfair to play against, and was not an intended mechanic of the weapon. Can no longer mark targets through Titan barricades. Yeah, if you didn't know, you could put up a Titan barricade, and then you could hold down the trigger and lock onto the target through the barricade, even if you didn't have Titan's ramparts, and then you could just look up, release the trigger, and it would shoot those bullets over the barricade and track to your target and kill them. It was really dumb. Glad they fixed that. Teraba, that's a lot of text. My God, buckle up. This weapon is something that we've been keeping on for a while, and have had, with the spotlight being shown on aggressive frame SMGs, it felt like Teraba has had its time in the sun. When the weapon was introduced, there was substantially less survivability in PvP, and the intention was that it would take nearly 2 full engagements to get Ravenous Beast active, which made it one of the costliest perks activations we had in the game, and justified the extreme power it offered. As the sandbox has progressed, however, survivability has increased, and it was more possible for Ravenous Beast to be very close to activating after a single engagement. This has meant that savvy players could purposely bait or take a small amount of damage, like standing in a grenade effect, to top off the perk, and then make it active for the second engagement. That's not good. The increased ease of access to make Ravenous Beast an outlier in today's Crucible, we were left with the option to reduce the potency of the perk itself or trying to make its activation more difficult, and we decided to work with the latter. This reducing in energy granted from taking damage puts the onus back on the user to deal damage and shifts the balance of the perk back towards a difficult activator that justifies its reward of a potent effect. In addition, we are continuing our mission to address zoom outliers, and this felt like a good time to reduce the zoom of Teraba back down to something more in line with the rest of the SMG archetype. Reduce the amount of Ravenous Beast energy generated while taking damage from 3% to 1%, so it's going to be more focused on aggression versus when you take damage. And they reduce the zoom by 1. That doesn't seem like a lot, but as far as I know, the zoom numbers for SMGs really change how good it feels in PvP. Someone from PvP can tell me how this change feels. What's that bring it up to for total ammo order? I will check for you. Okay. Revision 0. 4th times the charm working with Revision 0 went into Hunter's Trace is a fun and intended interaction, but it caused some unfortunate issues. Activating it too early while the perk was up caused the weapon to overflow its limited magazine size and return to the normal pulse rifle mode. We have made a fix so that the 4th times the charm can continue to work with Hunter's Trace while it's active, but it will not be able to grant ammo until all the shots have been expended. This means you can still enjoy the 2 free shots provided by the perk as long as you hit all 4 Hunter's Trace rounds without worrying about being kicked out of the mode. In addition, we have buffed the damage of the Hunter's Trace rounds by 25% in PvE. My god, Bungie, what are you doing? This is on top of the pulse rifle bonus. And we have buffed the Hake heavy burst rounds by 75% in PvE. This is the best scout rifle in the game now. My god. The heavy burst needed a buff because the light burst, the 4 round, built Hunter's Trace faster, and it actually did more damage than the heavy burst did. But I think 75%, I could be wrong. I think 75% might be a little bit too high, Bungie. It might be a little bit, just a smidge too strong. I want to get Deej's opinion. What does it say? Don't think those rounds count as sniper shots. Heavy burst buff was needed. The heavy burst buff was needed. I agree. I think 75%, a little too much. We'll see. We'll feel it out. I've moved it to my character already. We'll test it in a second. Was 60% of the light burst damage originally. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it feels. If it feels as good as the light burst did before, because that gun was whack on its own. It's currently getting... Okay. It's currently getting, what is it, 20% bonus just by being a pulse? 20% bonus just by being a pulse. Then 25% on top of that for the sniper shot, which is already getting 20% from using Vorpal. And then the normal mode is heavy burst is getting 75% on top of the 20% that it's getting from the other thing. So it's just going to be, that is going to be a ridiculous gun. Just a ridiculous gun. This is for the mid-season patch, which is next week, I think. I think these are live. I think these changes are live, that's why we had an update. Yeah, I think this is live. Shaved how many shots it takes in time to kill in PvE. Not necessarily. We've done quite a bit of numbers. Heroic Mission, Grandmaster. Yeah, I think this is... Oh, mid-season preview weapons edition. Okay, you might be correct. No, this is mid-season. This is not next season, I don't think. I'm not sure. Oh, there's another thing too. We'll look at that in a sec. So what's up today? We're in week 5 out of 12 right now. Pretty sure it's next. Okay, so next week these changes will happen. Okay, well, we'll have baseline numbers, I guess, then. Let's continue. This will now make it more of a trade-off when choosing between the origin perks, either dealing more damage in the primary mode, but charging Hunter's Trace more slowly, or dealing less damage by charging the bonus shot more quickly. 4 types of charm will now be reset when entering Hunter's Trace. This will prevent the issue. Increase the, reticles. Okay, sure. Oh, that's cool. You can see the little dots in the middle here. The little, like, things in the middle, they go towards the edge as your charge builds up for your heavy attack. So you can visually see in your crosshair when your heavy comes back. That's cool. I like that a lot. Oh, it's got the little wings on it when it does the little... Oh, that's cool. That's neat. Oh, Memento Mori has all the shots on the bottom. That's so cool. I like that a lot. That's pretty sweet. Big fan. Big fan. These are little changes that you notice as you play, and they're going to be really nice. Was this Quicksilver? Oh, it's got the 3 little grenades on the bottom, and now they're primed, and you can visually see how many grenades you have. That's pretty sweet. Vex Mythoclast. Oh, it's going to have the 3 points. Yep, boom, boom, and then this one's still active. That's cool. Yeah. I like that. Big fan. As Season 21 launches, a sweeping rework of weapon hipfire reticles to better display useful information. That's what they just showed. The aggressive frame nerf. A 10% PvE buff to sniper rifle damage Bungie. Cloud Strike. Come on, man. This is ridiculous. Buffs and adjustments to more of a dozen exotics, including Graviton Lance and Salvation's Grip. Those need it, so that's good. Salvation's Grip. What kind of a buff could that be getting, I wonder? Scout Rifle meta. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that'll be fine. Cloud Strike's going to be ridiculous. I want to see what the Salvation's Grip buff is. I'd like to use that gun at some point. It has to do some damage, though. It can't just do shatter damage, Bungie. In the future, we're going to take a look at Zoom interacts with damage fall off. Zoom and perks like Rangefinder that manipulate Zoom. Investigating decoupling damage fall off from Zoom. Okay. Okay, that's pretty funny. Wallpapers. Yep, cool. That's pretty. That's pretty funny. Strand. Cool. Pretty funny with the giant pukas. Brachion! Cool. Neat. It's your boy. He's got all those weird eyes. I never realized that. I saw it was a like ring in the middle, but there's 7 little things. It'd be weird if there was 9 of them, wouldn't it? The puka. Brachion. Hey, it's the Warlock one. Cool. Good Twab, good Twab. What are we getting today? Trials of Osiris. Okay. Neomuna Free Realm. Reduce the prevalence of elite enemies to lower the base difficulty of Free Roam. Fixed an issue that was causing Cabal turrets in the park to respawn too quickly. Very cool. Deal with that in a sec. Fixed an issue where Nezarec would not react to players that were positioned in a well of radiance. This will be a very interesting change. I assume he will be much more aggressive and continue to do his animations instead of getting stuck at the edge of the damage area where he will just sit there and let you wail on him. That'll be cool. Combatant's health scaling for 2 and 3 player fire teams reduced in the Legendary Exotic mission. We like that. That's good. Reduced enemy health in Legend and Master tier Nightfalls, Battlegrounds, Lost Sectors, Offensives, Hunts, and Legend/Master campaign missions. Also a fan of that. They wanted to have the difficulty be similar to the one thing that we did last season, which is fine. But I agree that it was a little too strong for new players. So I'm glad they're scaling it back a little bit. We'll see how it feels. Hilariously enough, I am today going to do Legendary Campaign Mission to get my level 8. So thanks for making it easier for me today. Appreciate it. Fix the UI, commendations, remove guarding rank objectives that require commendation, number of commendations required for Hawthorns to 5, yep. Reduce the number of additional Scorch stacks added by the Flare Up artifact perk in PvP from 30 to 15. Yep, that sounds fair. Ignition's PvP pretty strong, I imagine. Fixed an issue where target lock trait was not correctly deactivating on a miss if the weapon was firing at 720 RPM or higher. That's neat. That's going to make that one trace rifle that can target lock a little worse. Fixed an issue where some players were unable to attain the Riskrunner Catalyst. Good fix. Fixed an issue where Quicksilver Storm and Touch of Malice were not receiving the 40% damage bonus against minor enemies. This is going to make Quicksilver Storm feel really, really good. Touch, pretty much already one-shotting most red bars. Now it will one-shot all red bars. Maybe they're making it work like the Hunter aspect, make a dusk field around the crystal. Trying to figure out what that is in relation to. Salvation's Grip. That would be actually really neat if it gave you like it'd be cool. I mean, it already freezes everything in proximity, but it would be neat if it got an effect similar to the Hunter exotic, where if you're near that crystal, then you took reduced damage or something like that. It'd be really cool if it did the opposite and it increased your damage while you were standing next to it. Maybe like a 15%. Nothing crazy, but something to warrant it being an exotic and not just making stasis crystals like your regular grenade does. Would be pretty sweet. Any buff to it is going to be a good buff because the weapon is literally unusable right now unless you want to... Like, I use it when I'm teaching raids to get people who get stuck out of it by being able to jump on the stasis crystals I make on the wall. Yeah, I mean, Tractor would obviously be a better choice, but Tractor can't put up a stasis wall, interact with all the benefits of breaking stasis crystals, and Tractor can't, like, make cover if you need to pick a res real quick. Like, I think that's the utility of Salvations, is, like, being able to scale on the walls really well, and then also being able to stick reses and make cover when you really need it. Although that is significantly reduced now by the ability of Glaives, which just give you free res picks when you need them, because you can take 95% reduced damage from the front. Power and progression. Fixed an issue where certain ghost and weapon mods were not correctly unlocking when progressing through Guardian ranks. Fixed an issue where certain new players were missing access to patrol destinations. Both of those seem important, and I'm glad they are fixed.